Welcome back to another episode of Finding Love. And today we're going to do something very different. Something that we didn't even know was going to be a thing, but we invited our friends over. Of course we recorded it. And we just knew the power and impact of watering ourselves. And we also understand the power and impact of just wisdom, right?
Yes, baby.
So in anything that you do that you want to be great at, business, school, whatever, marriage, you want to make sure that you're getting the best practices.
And for the most part, we've done the singles thing. Yeah. We've reached out to a lot of our married couples, but this was an intimate setting for us to just let our hair down, let our mask off, enjoy some dinner, enjoy some nice wine, and just really see where the conversation took us.
And the gems were dropped, okay? We have couples who have, been together since they were teenagers, nearly. We had couples that met later on in life, through a mutual friend. And then we had another couple who, was a little unorthodox because the girl was kind of pushing up on him a little bit. He was oblivious to the greatness he had in front of him.
Yes.
So I love the dynamic. Everybody was different. We have a very different love story. And everybody said things that I think are so contrary to what we see on social media. And it was a general consensus that love and marriage is joy. And because we are so incredibly grateful for all of the comments, likes, shares, subscribes to our social media, we want to invite you to this conversation. We're going to be dropping gems from this conversation all week. So be sure to go and like and comment and subscribe to I Am Finding Love on all social networks.
And right after this, we'll get back into a little bit more of a deep dive into the misconceptions of marriage.
So I'm very intentional about leading the conversations and making sure that we get out of it what we need to. So I sent all of the couples a questionnaire and I had them fill it in. One of the questions was, is marriage hard? And I wanted to keep it just there. I didn't want you to be like other or sometimes. I want you to say yes or no. And one of my good friends, Pastor Loretta Forbes, said yes. And she was one of the only ones. And maybe because she was the most honest, right? But she was one of the only ones. And what she said was so profound. So we're going to kick it off with hearing what she had to say about marriage being hard.
And I feel like the reason why I did say marriage is hard is because marriage is work.
Yeah.
And when I think about marriage, I think about like how passionate I am about my marriage and how passionate I am about my love for my husband. And then I think about the word passion, and that root word for passion means to suffer, something that you can suffer for, right? And so like I think about like the suffering, and it's hard work. So putting in that work though, I choose him every time. But it ain't easy for me. It's because it's also like you have to like lay down self, right? So it's like. Usually when you're single, you're selfish, you think about you. But like in marriage, you have to die to self. That is hard, right? And then like another question was about like the single you versus the married you. And for me, it was like self-awareness is a big thing in marriage. Because to me, marriage is like a mirror. Like he tells me so much about myself, I'll be like, oh, I thought I had it together. I don't have it together. You know what I mean? And that's hard because that means that I have to really work on myself to be better for him. Because at the end of the day, we're one. So when I look in the mirror, I see him, he sees me. It's so crazy. So I think it's hard, but I think it's worth it. And I still choose you every time.
Big shout out to my good friend and sister, Loretta Forbes, and of course all the couples and her husband Cecil. But this is a moment of transparency and really taking the mask off. And this is what this dinner was all about. And we have so many sound bites, so many clips that we can and will share with you. But what I liked so much about her was that she was so authentic and so honest about what marriage is.
Yeah.
Now, it's hard to sum marriage up in a soundbite,
Yeah.
but I thought that was a very powerful soundbite because what she did was she said some key things there.
Yeah.
That marriage is like looking in the mirror.
Woo.
That you die to self, ultimately becoming one.
Yeah.
When two become one.
Yeah.
And I believe starting right there with this episode is where we need to start because there are so many misconceptions of marriage out there.
For sure.
And I think we have the responsibility to address it. And to me, one of the main misconceptions of marriage is that it's either bliss or it has to be struggle.
Yeah.
That marriage is a destination or it has to be a life sentence. And I think the overall preconceived perception of marriage is flawed.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it comes from social media and the things we digest.
Yeah.
Even in some of the groups we're in and with some of our friends, I see divisiveness between men and women.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Who is high value? Who has to bring more to the table?
Yeah.
It's always a comparison.
Yeah.
It doesn't portray what it truly means to begin this journey of marriage together.
Yeah. I think that I believe that some psychologists say it's called the performance mindset. And that mindset says that I am only, I'm basically determining my value as a wife, as a woman, as a mother based on my performance. And especially in the Black community, men and women do this. If we're not cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids, and loving it, right, then we don't have value. So when they ask you what you bring to the table, they're asking you for these performance-based outlook on who you are as a person. And I think we need to die to that. That, death to the performance mindset.
Yes.
The moment that you know that your intrinsic value is in being good, it's being kind, it's being compassionate and caring and knowing how to compromise versus I make the most money and pay all the bills, I cook, I clean, is the moment that we can really begin to truly love one another.
Yeah.
Because we've even seen in just our time being married that roles shift. Things happen.
Right.
Sometimes we need more support. And if your value is only about the amount of money you bring home, then you get kicked out if I start making more. And if my value is in cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the kids, get me out of here because I also have a full-time career and I like self-care and, sometimes I just need a break.
Yeah.
So that whole mindset shift is one of the biggest, I want to say it's embedded in our community.
Yeah.
And the moment we can get rid of that is the moment we can really, truly love.
Yeah. But I think being honest that you can put me in that box as well. Because before you and before we were together, everything was about I'm the prize. I'm the one to win. Even if it was subconsciously, I have everything figured out.
Yeah.
They have to show up for me. And that is just the opposite of what marriage is, right?
Yeah.
I think social media and the things that are the society and culture is putting out there, it is instant gratification, right? It's selfishness. There's uncertainty, doubting the other person. Yeah. And that is the absolute opposite of what marriage is and what we discussed at that dinner table.
Yeah, for sure. Which
was a lot of growth, right? Just sitting there, I felt inspired.
Oh, what? We could have gone on for 50 million more hours just discussing how we've grown individually and collectively as people within these marriages.
Right.
And that's why this is going to be a two-part series because we couldn't even get all of the gems in this one part. But one thing that you were just saying, prior to marriage, I was evaluating you the entire time. I was not evaluating me. And that is a problem. I was making sure that you check these boxes and you fit. I mean, you created some boxes I didn't even know I needed. I was like, wait a minute, I do want that too, you know? But in evaluating you, I know that one of my biggest reasons behind getting or wanting to be married to you was the security of knowing that you chose me and that you are choosing us, right? And that's all cool, right? Okay, that's cool. But the longevity or the work or the continuously choosing each other every day is the part that I don't think too often we evaluate on the front end of marriage. And we absolutely should. Because people change. Yeah. Our bodies change. Our interests change. You know, when we were dating and engaged, we were still moving and shaking and going partying. Now, you say we going to dinner after the kids, and I'm like, let me get some coffee, you know? So it's like just our activities, hobbies, what we like, all of that has shifted. And of course, there are always things like, I like to read a lot, right? Yeah. And you like sum it up for me. But we've always been able to kind of discuss what I'm reading and talk through it. But what if, you know, every time you said you wanted to watch a movie, I said, I would rather go read a book. Are we going to have a disconnect?
Right.
Do we no longer like each other? Mm-hmm. Are we no longer in this for the long run? Like, no, come on now, you know? So it's like thinking about yourself, knowing your value outside of performance and making sure that you are marrying for the longevity. You are marrying this person for his character, for his love of God, for his leadership, instead of who he is or who she is in that moment in time, because it will change.
And with you saying that makes me think that a lot of the time we don't learn how to be a husband before marriage or learn how to be a wife before marriage. I mean, I know I didn't. No. Luckily, we grew together. Yeah. You know, we sacrificed together, and we fumbled along and limped along, and we found our way. But to me, if that is understood and that is taught of, you know, committing to self-evaluation, committing to learning somebody else, and committing to trusting that person, that is a foundation that you have to have to grow together and be together, because marriage is dope. Yeah. You know, and a lot of people don't understand that. Yeah. And I have to say it because it represents purpose. It represents family. It represents friendship. And to me, that is the dopeness of marriage. Yeah. Having this right here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that you're not taught to be a wife or a husband mainly because we haven't seen it.
Right.
In our communities, there are so many single parents out there, or, you know, families that are just disconnected. We don't see it. And a lot of times in seeing it, it's not about emulating exactly what you saw, but taking what you saw and saying, okay, that was great.
Yep.
I like that. I want to implement that. I don't know about that. Just like we did as parents.
Yeah.
You know, we watched our parents and we said, you know, one of the things my mom liked to do, she liked to eat at the table, right? Yeah. And I used to be like, come on, Mom, let's watch TV, you know. But now that I have my family, it's our chance to catch up.
Yeah.
What happened today? What did you learn? What excited you? What has you thinking about throwing the whole day away? Like, give me some insight of today. And we do that with even our young ones, right?
Yeah, we do.
Even Penny can tell me, you know, what letter they're learning today. So that is something that I was like, loved it. I'm going to implement that. We're going to take that with us. But then there's some things where, you know, I don't know if I ever remember my dad eating with us, right? So I don't really have that memory. And because of that, I try to be very intentional about us both being there, even if one of us wants to work out or finish some work up or whatever the case may be. So just like as parents, we've taken the good and implemented it and made sure that we were very much aware of the bad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't whip my kids. I still a lot of whippings. They need to go to jail. But, things like that. The same thing needs to happen sometimes in marriage.
Yeah.
But if you didn't see it growing up, it does not mean that you're at a deficit.
No.
It does mean that you need to do some more research. You need to start taking into accountability that you don't know.
Yeah.
So learning your partner, understanding what it means to have some type of compromise instead of divisiveness in every single facet of life is so important.
And I think that's also so important because I remember one of our very deep conversations, and I think that's important too, having humility and being able to operate in grace and understanding with one another.
For sure.
Is where we really learned a lot about each other. And in one of those conversations, I remember my wife was vulnerable, and I appreciate that because it matters to this day that she felt as though I had some sort of advantage because I saw a household of my mother and father, thriving and doing well in marriage, or what people would consider well in marriage. And I just remember in that moment going from a disagreement to being there for one another. And in that moment, we had a very special revelation that we want so much more collectively than we both had.
Yeah.
Regardless if you saw good things and had good memories, or regardless of if my parents, are married, we want so much more. And so that also speaks to you picking from this piece, and just really what this community is all about, right? Because it's not just about me and you.
Yeah.
It's not just about my mom and dad or your mom and dad, or even the people at the table. It's about the collective, so that we can be that melting pot, so that we can be just a piece of the equation to say, hey, marriage is dope, and we want to be a part of that community. And that's, to me, what it's all about.
Yeah. I think that you said two very important words: humility and vulnerability. Too often people get a little vulnerable too soon, though. Like, why are you telling this man or this woman all your business? Like, stop pillow talking too soon.
Right.
But when you have that sense of security that your emotions are protected, that they are not going to share some information with anybody else, and they're not going to give you any false pretense of them being an expert on something that they don't even know about, right? Once you have that, then opening up and showing them some of the things that maybe you don't want on social media, right? Maybe you want to appear strong and all the way put together, but you really are searching for answers and looking for different avenues to get to the bottom line. And the humility. It is so, we are still working on this. Depending on how you say it, when you say it, what you say, like the ability to listen, understand, and then formulate a sentence is just everything. What is my partner trying to say to me? Can I take some, advice even out of this conversation? And can I tell my partner at least what they need to hear in this moment? Like, that's it. Now, if you need to double back and say, I know what I said, but I just thought about it later on, then do that. But in that moment, instead of being like, if someone says, I don't like this, or you shouldn't do this, well, what you do? Or, well, you do it. Instead of doing that and actually processing, what are they trying to get me to hear at this moment? And then letting that come out of your mouth, that just split second can change the whole trajectory of your relationship. And then I was listening to, I know I reference him all the time. Oh my goodness, Jay, I love you. Jay Shetty. He has a new book out, and it's basically like I believe it's not love language. It's like the 8 laws of love, or the 8 something of love. Oh, forgive me, Jay. I am a fan. But he was talking about creating your own rules in your relationship. That's something else that comes out of vulnerability and humility. Because if we're not trying to keep up with the Joneses or keep up with your parents or, depict this rom-com or, whatever you're looking at to get this view of what marriage is, if we're not doing that and we're absolutely listening to our partners, we are creating our own rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are things that I'm sure that we do that somebody else would be like, I would never. And it's definitely things that even our friends, in their marriages do that I would never. But what's right or wrong?
Right.
And what is the measurement of success?
But like you said, every marriage is custom fit.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's no longer two, you become one.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that I had to appreciate about you. Yeah. And that's why, even you spoke to it, you have to operate in grace and understanding with your wife, with your husband. Yeah. Because if you're committed to the effort, if you're committed to, the love, and you're choosing to be committed, you're choosing to love that person, then it is work. Yeah. But I think even my good brother Marcus said this on the at dinner, was that often there's a negative connotation to work, right?
Ooh, yeah.
But guess what? Without work, there is no progress.
Yeah.
If you have to go to the gym, guess what? You have to put in work in order to look good, feel good, right?
Faith without works is dead.
There you go.
You can pray all day.
All day, right? So you have to put in the work. And so the perception of the word work along with marriage, I think, can be have a flawed perspective.
Yes.
And so you have to look at it as saying that, guess what? Those challenges, those tough things do make you better, especially when you do them together.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can look back on adversity like we talked about before. Yeah. We can look back on challenging times. But what we always can see on the other side of the work, on the other side of the real challenges, that we were stronger for it.
Yeah.
Right? And so the word work should not be seen as negative. Yeah, right? That's why I think where the thought of marriage being bliss or being straight struggle is one of the misconceptions or one of the myths. Yeah, right?
I agree.
I think when you put in that work and you make that constant effort, and that's why sometimes people say marriage is hard, it's because you're constantly working on yourself. Mm-hmm. And I can say this with you, that I know right now that I'm the best version of myself because of the work I put in, right? Yeah. If it was single Steve just chilling and I was chilling back here, there's no one to hold me accountable. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can hold myself accountable, but I don't have to, right? I know that marriage can be hard, but what did most people say at that table? Marriage can be hard, but marriage is
worth it. Yeah. Yeah. I also just want to go back to what Lo was saying. You just said it too. It's like a mirror. Mm-hmm. We are transferring energy to each other at all times. And we have been reactive based on the energy that each other has given, in any given moment. So if you come in and it looks like you had a hard day, I can either match your energy. You had a hard day, me too. And now these kids here, Or I could say, looks like he had a hard day. Mm-hmm. And because I noticed that, let me try to make it a little easier. Hey, you want to go work out? I got the kids. Hey, what? So it's 1 o'clock? Whatever the case may be. And I'm just, making it very simple just for reference. But if I am seeing you constantly annoyed or frustrated in our household and it's not based on work or any outside factors, it's me. So you are the mirror of what I'm giving and putting into this relationship at all times. And sometimes looking at that mirror, you're like, dang, he been annoyed for 3 days. No, well, I did throw that on the floor. I did say that. Yeah. You have to continuously see your role. Yeah. And that's hard. That's hard. And also, when we're not talking about performance or grade system, okay, I got an A+ ahead of the kids, you're on a D-. So now I'm better. When we're taking all of those factors out, we also have to see just how to coexist in the happiest of ways. And in taking care of you and you being happy and you being fulfilled, I know that I'm going to reap that. Like, I know that I'm planting seeds and watering it. And I love flowers. So, boom. So it's just like, what do you want out of this thing? Like, why are you doing this? And if your answer is, financial constraint, well, he take care of all the bills. I do live with him. Get out of there. If your answer is like, oh, he's such a great father.
Right.
Get out of there. Them kids gonna turn 18 on you, and they just gonna want your money. Okay, you're done. If it's they so fine.
Yeah.
Life on you, and this also takes me back to another podcast when they were talking about if your significant other just completely became unattractive to you.
Yes.
How would you deal with that, and what would you do? And I thought that was interesting too, because number one, you don't become unattractive overnight unless something catastrophic happens, like you're in a bad accident or something like that, right? So you was getting big for a long time. And at some point, I'm like, so we not working out? And women, we are in charge of what our men and our families eat. So if you seeing that all your kids looking like butterballs, your husband getting big, it's you. Lay off the butter, And so I was like, that would be some time of a miscommunication between the two of them. And it would also be a certain level of disconnect, because you and I are looking at each other and we are constantly trying to be better financially, spiritually, physically, emotionally.
That's right.
And so if I let all this time go by until one day I just bust up and was like, why you look like that? That's crazy to me. But I also saw that a lot of married couples are not having sex. And they're just getting too into the routine. And that's another thing. So if you're not having any intimacy, you're not communicating on a regular basis because you're waiting until this person is completely out of your level of attraction to talk to them about it, you have some things that are deeply rooted in the very core and foundation of your marriage. And so if you're looking at this marriage as a reflection of you, if you are a reflection of me, if you are a representative of me, I need you looking good. I need you feeling good. I need you smelling good, pockets fat, all of that. It does not do anything for me if you over here fat, po, ain't getting no sex. You ain't smiling no more. What is it doing for me? So it's like, if you keep that in mind, the harder you work at the other person, at keeping the other person happy, if you're in a good, solid relationship where the foundation is set, you will absolutely reap all of the rewards of that.
And I think that's an important piece to all of it, is because when we were single, it's not about the constant work for someone else.
Yeah.
It's not about the constant work together. And I think that's a good segue, because one of the questions we had when we had our Kick It session with our singles was, what were you willing to do to be married? Right?
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of a transition of a little introspective questioning.
Yeah.
So let's have a little moment right here of a little Q&A with me and you.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Where we don't focus on what you gonna do for me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna focus on what I'm gonna do for you, and you gonna focus on what you gonna do for me.
All right, then.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
All right? So my question to you is, what have you had to work on in our marriage?
Well, where do we start? Well, I've said this before, but one of the things that I know, I've never really had to watch my mouth, right? Unless I was talking to Denise, my mama. She like, who you talking to? But I've always been able to just been like a straight shooter.
Yeah.
And mainly I've seen that it's because I like to be shot straight with. You know, I don't want you to beat all around the bush and you ain't got to tell me all this fluffy stuff. I want you to get to the point so I get to the point. But in getting to the point, it's also about your delivery. It's also about respecting the other person, the language that you use. And all of that has been something that has probably been the hardest thing, just because I'm like, okay, I see this. I want to say it right now, but I know I don't have the capacity to say it in the way that he needs to hear it. And so that has taken lots and lots of work. Another big thing is we got pregnant 3 months into marriage. So I've been a new mom and a wife simultaneously.
Yeah.
So I didn't really get a chance to learn how to be a wife first. So because of that, a lot of times it's been times where I'm in a routine with the kids, you know, that everything else falls to the wayside. From work, from us, everything. And so that has been something I've been very intentional about. Is just making sure that I'm prioritizing you, I'm taking care of you. They good. And when we're happy, I can already see the joy that's on their faces. When we're happy, we don't mind going to a place on the weekend. We don't mind going to, you know, some sporting events or having the cousins come over. But when we're not happy, no, you can't have no friends. Please go outside. Keep your iPad, please. Like, whatever. And so, taking care of you and making you a higher priority on this list of all of these hats that I wear has been something that I've been very intentional about and didn't really think that I was going to have to even address.
Yes.
Those two are like top things that right now I don't feel like I'm a A+ student at, but I am working on daily. You know, and then there's a whole other list of stuff. What's yours? Look, get off of me.
But guess what first? Watch this. I see you working, and I see you improving on it, and I appreciate you. You see? This is how this works. But I do see her working, and that is important, and I feel her working. But for me, I would say it's two things.
Okay.
One is that I have learned that I'm not here to change you. I'm not here to change my wife. And that if we do have a difficult moment, or you're going through a difficult moment or a challenging season, I have to trust that you're going to come back to me. And that is not a familiar place with a lot of people. But if you are in a marriage, you have to have that, right?
Yeah, very
and
much so.
It's so important, right?
Yeah.
And then the other piece to it is that something that I have had to learn and I have to reaffirm is that there is no right or wrong in marriage. Because if we constantly trying to figure out who is right and who is wrong, then we're going to spend a whole lot of time, spin a whole lot of wheels, and waste a whole lot of time between the two of us trying to find answers that don't matter. We need to make sure that we getting back to our happy place and make sure that we do not see each other as ops. We see each other on the same team with the same objective, with the same goals. And if we understand that and we making an effort and a commitment to keep getting back to that place, then right and wrong doesn't matter anyway.
Hey.
So that's what I've been working on, and I'm still working on it. And guess what? I'm probably going to keep working on it. But hey, baby, I'm going to keep working.
Guess what?
What?
I see you.
Come on, baby.
And I appreciate you.
All right.
Okay. So I have a question.
Okay.
What do you do that is specific to my needs? And what are you working on that is very specific to what I need?
Okay, she's going deep now. Keeping you as a priority. I think it's so easy and natural to be selfish. It's just how we come up. But I remember a lot of our early on conversations where I had to peel back those layers of Jenny. And I have to focus on those moments I have to focus on the moments where my wife lost her brothers at an early age. You experiencing that tragedy. I have to focus on high expectations being placed on you as a child. And you had nobody to lean on. You had nobody to cry to. From what I imagine is that that's an extremely lonely place. And so what I have to do is that no matter what is going on, if my wife is going through a tough time, if my wife is having a frustrating day, or is anxious, or is mentally or physically drained, I have to show up for you. I have to be there for you. Even if that means that I have to set aside my rough day, because I have to focus on Jenny now and the Jenny who was never able to lean on somebody. And so that is a commitment that I have to making that effort. Sometimes I may fall short, but I promise you that I am working on that, and I focus on that. And I try to focus on it daily.
Okay, say that.
So I'm going to flip that question around, and I'm going to ask you, what do you continue to work on that is customized for me, for my wants and needs?
Is to separate your wants and needs from mine. And a couple things that come to mind is like, you were saying, give me some time to work out, right?
Yeah.
You like, when I work out, I get mental clarity, everything. And I was like, well, you need to find some time to work out then. Shoot, because I have to wake up early or do whatever I got to do. And I was realizing that I was trying to battle our needs. And I'm like, if I got to wake up early, then you got to stay up late or whatever, versus being like, this is something that he wants. And this is something I can easily help him achieve.
Yeah.
I got the kids anyway when they get here. You know, so it's like making sure that I'm not combining what our needs are. Another thing is when we wake up in the morning. I am not a morning person. I do not want none of these people in this house to talk to me before coffee, but whatever. And my husband's like, good morning. And why you looking like that, basically? And I'm like, why you keep asking me this? And I saw that it was more so rooted in the fact that when the babies were very young, I was the one that was losing the most sleep. And, you know, by the morning time, I had already put in a full shift, and you want some kisses and hugs, and I want some sleep, you know? So it was hard to get past that. But now our kids are sleeping through the night. We don't have those issues. If I can wake up and just be a little bit more pleasant, you know, and I have to think about this, because in real life, I'd be like, oh, y'all need something. Everybody needs something. I just want to be asleep. And again, my lack of sleep or me not liking the mornings does not have to be in conjunction with you saying, be nice in the freaking mornings. And they don't go hand in hand. Because what you need is what you need. And it will not kill me to give you what you need. So just separating the two and making sure that I'm not saying, well, you can't have that because I don't have that. Yeah. When it's more so your need than it is mine.
We both working, baby.
We working. We working.
Should we toast?
Let's toast.
All right. So, shall I?
Please.
Okay. So this toast is about the dopeness and the beauty of marriage. Because it's all about being the best version of yourself.
Yes.
Right? And I think in a healthy marriage and what marriage is supposed to be, it's ultimately about pushing yourself to be the best you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and collectively. And when you have that partner and that friend, and that is the cohesive unit that you have, then everything is better.
Yeah.
Everything is multiplied. And guess what? And this is to you finding that person for you. And if you are married, this is for you guys continuing to grow together and continuing to find your love and continuing to grow your love.
Yes. Cheers. So after this toast, I think we have to do a special thanks to our good friends, the Gowdies, the Forbes, the Lawsons. You don't know how much you enriched our souls that night and gave us so much content for this week, for this podcast. Again, this is just part 1 of 2 of us just dropping some gems about marriage and how much love, understanding, and mutual respect can go so far in life.
And look, please, everybody who's watching, I want you all to stay tuned and tune into our social media because the Gowdies are dropping gems, the Lawsons are dropping gems, and the Forbes are dropping gems. So please join in this community, comment, like, share, rate, let us know how we're doing. Let us know topics we should touch on because we would love to touch on any topics that are near and dear to your heart or anything that's on your mind. Thanks again for joining us.
We go.